You've heard the phrase, 40 acres and a mule. A promise made to newly freed slaves after the Civil War. But did you know that while freed black Americans were left with nothing, former slave owners were actually paid reparations for their loss of property? In 1865, General William T. Sherman issued Special Field Order No. 15, granting freed black families 40 acres of land. Later, some even received army mules, but this promise was short-lived. After Lincoln's assassination, President Andrew Johnson reversed the order, returning land to former Confederate owners. Black Americans who had begun to build lives were stripped of everything once again. Here's the twist. While freed slaves got nothing, in Washington, D.C., slave owners received up to $300 per enslaved person under the District of Columbia Emancipation Act of 1862. The government compensated them for their so-called loss. But what about those who had endured generations of forced labor, family separation, graping, and unnecessary torture? No reparations, no financial compensation, just freedom, with no resources to survive. This decision set the tone for racial wealth disparities that still impact America today. The broken promise of 40 acres and a mule remains one of history's greatest injustices. So the next time someone asks about reparations, remind them slave owners got paid. The enslaved left to struggle. It's time we tell the full story. The land project that allowed Europeans, including Germans, to claim 160 acres of land in the New World for essentially free was called the Homestead Act of 1862. This act, signed by President Abraham Lincoln, granted public land to any adult citizen or intended citizen who agreed to live on and improve the land for a set period, essentially allowing them to claim land at a minimal cost. Key points about the Homestead Act and its contrast with the 40 acres and a mule promise. Access to land. While the Homestead Act opened up vast tracts of Western land to European settlers, African Americans, particularly recently freed slaves, were largely excluded from this opportunity due to systemic racism and the failure to enforce the 40 acres and a mule promise. In the years following the Civil War, the struggle for black Americans continued. Despite the promise of freedom, systemic racism and black codes restricted their rights. These laws ensured black Americans remained second-class citizens. Vagrancy laws criminalized unemployment, leading to forced labor camps. The civil rights movement of the 1960s marked a significant turning point. Leaders like Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, and Malcolm X rose to challenge these injustices. The legacy of racial injustice continues to affect the United States today. The wealth gap, mass incarceration, and ongoing discrimination are remnants of history. Each step forward brings us closer to the equality that was promised. It's a long road, but history shows us that change is possible. The story of 40 acres and a mule is a reminder of unfulfilled promises and ongoing struggles for racial equality in America. Today, discussions about reparations and racial justice are more relevant than ever. Acknowledging historical injustices is crucial for building a more equitable society. Reparations are about recognizing the enduring impact of slavery and systemic racism. Imagine a future where the wounds of the past are acknowledged. This is not just a dream, it is a call to action. Communities are pushing for policies that address deep-rooted inequalities. Reparations could take many forms: education, housing, business grants, or financial support. Each step honors past sacrifices and paves the way for a just society. The journey towards reparations is a testament to Black resilience. It's a call for justice, equity, and recognition of a shared history. The fight continues, but with every voice raised, we move closer to true equality.